conversations, I will not be offended, but please step outside, down the pathway there, or down the stairs, because we do have some additional excellent programming. And as I said, Edward Norton, he will be here, and we don't want to miss a minute of the time we might have to spend with him. So I apologize because I had to run across the way to Moscone Center, just a quick hop, skip, and a jump. There's a Facebook Live now that was cast on the GCAST site and West Big Data Innovation Hub and Climate Nexus that talks about water at the Global Climate Action Summit. So that's awesome, and I was grateful to do it and very willing to leave here, but very sad to have missed what sounded like a really excellent panel that I caught the end of. So before we move on to our next speakers, I did want to take just a minute, and I would like to ask anyone who is here who is in high school to stand up, or if you're already standing, if you could wave your arms. And you know high school people, they like to stand at the back of the room. So keep waving your arms so everyone has a chance to see you. If you are in college or college age, wave your hands. Similar. Yeah, or stand up if you're sitting down, yeah. Yeah, so I point this out because seriously, they're the ones who are gonna get this done. Like, we're kind of holding things together with paper clips and duct tape and string, and I know a few of them, they're brilliant. And they are going to get this done. And I just wanted to thank you all for coming and being here with us and encourage you to talk to people. So let me get to the right page on my agenda. Okay, so I am introducing Sharif, Jamil, and Marc Yaggi, who are both associated with the Waterkeepers. Who in this room has never heard of the Waterkeepers? Oh, a couple. So you guys you definitely explain. But most of you are familiar with Waterkeepers. It's you're in an international organization that works very hard to protect our rivers and oceans and water resources. So without any further ado, Sharif and Marc, come on down.
So good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the people of Bangladesh, I should have some slides in it. So I can go without it, but that will be harder for the audience to understand all these things. Because with my poor English, I hope you will understand. Anyway, good afternoon, everybody. I started my activism in 2000 as a volunteer to organize an international conference in Bangladesh on Bangladesh environment. We call it ICBN 2000, International Conference on Bangladesh Environment. And that was hosted by 80 pro-people and pro-environment organizations, then in Bangladesh, to identify the probable environmental crisis of the country and what we can do as a civil society in future. So through that conference, a civil society platform called Bangladesh Environment Network, you can tell it Bangladesh Environment Movement in English, but we call it Bangladesh Paribesh Andolan, BAPA. So I am one of the youngest activists who was actually involved in organizing all the activities of the conference, and then BAPA formed, and BAPA identified what can be the crisis in terms of environmental challenges ahead of the country. And as a riverine country that identified protecting water bodies are really crucial, and first we need to address this. And they also decided that platform to be a voluntary platform, because we all are doing good things from our own organizations, but together we have to do something beyond the boundary and not to go for mitigation and litigation projects type stuffs, just to be a pressure group and put pressure on the government and parties and authorities to come up with the solution to protect our environment. So that's how I was engaged as an activist to the environmental activism. In 2009, I dedicated myself to protect the water bodies, and which was very specific. I was approved by Waterkeeper Alliance to be Buriganga River Keeper, which the river actually is flowing by the capital city of the country. And in other sense, you can say the capital city actually grew on this river. So it's very small but very important. So I was the first water keeper in Bangladesh, and our executive director here, who will be speaking after me, so you will get to know more about what water keeper means. But to us, we think water keeper means like the water body cannot talk, but it has a lot of prospects and problems. So a water keeper will be the voice of the water body. So we believe when we talk, the water body talks. So I started to gather information. We patrol our river, so I started patrolling my river. I gathered information and I projected it nationally. So it revealed many big issues that now government is dealing with and people are also dealing with, but I'm not going in detail because 10 minutes is not good enough to explain everything. But in 2015, we became the regional entity we call Waterkeepers Bangladesh. Waterkeepers Bangladesh has now 5 waterkeepers there for other rivers in the country. But Waterkeepers Bangladesh is also active to face challenges of the important water bodies in the country. And we expanded our activities throughout the country. If you do not know Bangladesh much, I want to give you some ideas in terms of the importance of water in our country. It is the lowest riparian country in Southeast Asia. That is actually the largest active delta in the world that takes water from entire Ganges and Brahmaputra. And the entire country, I said it's a riverine country, but the entire river system is basically, entire country is based on 3 major river systems, which is Ganges and Padma. You might have heard Ganges is coming from the Kailash, Mount Kailash in China, and from there it comes to India. Similar for the Brahmaputra through Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. So 5 countries are involved with these 2 basins and these 2 river systems. So all our rivers are basically dependent on these 3 transboundary river systems. One is Brahmaputra, one is Ganges Padma, and another is Barak Meghna. So we expanded our activities and we tried to address the water crisis in our country. That means I have crossed 10 minutes already? Is that true? No, I don't think so. Well, if it, okay, thank you. It helps. Well, so we actually addressed all the big issues, but I am not going to the in details of what is happening now and how much we achieved in terms of protecting our water bodies. But I want to address some of the issues we are dealing with currently in terms of protecting water and its quality. We have huge pollution problem. We have industries that are discharging untreated waste directly to the water body. And actually, World Bank financed an organization to do a study to identify what kind of pollutions are happening there in Bangladesh and in the water bodies in Bangladesh. And it found that 60% of the pollution are coming from the industries, and 30% are coming from government institutions, and 10% from household. So industrial pollution is a big challenge for us. We have rules and regulations. We have Water Conservation Act 1995 that says not to discharge untreated waste directly to the water body, but nobody follows it. And if even somebody has ETP in the industry, they don't run it because we have governance problem, we have capacity problem and all these things. So this is one side, but we have other kind of pollutions too, because the river system is coming from the upstream countries. So we have transboundary pollutions too. As for example, I can tell you, in the northeastern border of the country, northeastern 7 states of India in that part, and they have minings there. They have coal minings. They have even, we found from Shillong times, they have uranium mining. So we have even in our water bodies the radioactive pollutants coming from the upstream. We have a huge number of population in the country. You probably cannot imagine. We have more than 1,084 people per square kilometer, where there is only 30 maybe around in the US. So you can understand how much disastrous the impact is to the population. And we need food security. So government also allowed pesticide in our agricultural field, and it's a flat country. So those are actually somehow going to the water bodies. And also, due to the geological formation, the country is very friendly to dig groundwater. So private and public initiatives, they are very much interested to go for groundwater for water supply and all these things. As for example, Dhaka is the capital. It's a 20 million city in Bangladesh. And the Dhaka Water Supply and Sanitation Authority actually are giving water from 726 pumps. So every year, the water is depleting like an alarming level. It's already 67 centimeter depleted. Anyway, let me jump on the forthcoming challenge to us, because there is huge development activities going on, and government is inviting investors to the country. They have formed in 2000 special economy zone authority, so they formed a lot of legal frameworks, and they're inviting investors to go there. And they want economic development through industrial development. And that requires power. So government decided 3 power hubs in the country, in the coastal region, in the Bay of Bengal, and they are going to set up coal plants there. The government's target is to set up, develop 30,000 megawatt power from coals. But all these 3 hubs are very important in terms of ecology, in terms of climate change mitigation and adaptation, in terms of population. Because one hub is threatened, it is threatening the largest single-tract mangrove in the world, which is the last habitat of Bengal tiger and global heritage. And we have been fighting against it. There is another one hub, which is actually blocking a huge fish migration channel from where Bangladesh government actually got last year $0.5 billion of fish. It is our national fish hillside list. These 3 coal plants are obstructing that fish migration. And another one hub is in the longest beach in the world. So my urge to you, time is going out too fast, is the international community should focus on the development of Bangladesh. We have a lot of people, but not in a way which is not sustainable for the nation. And when you are extracting resources, fossil fuel here and exporting to some other country, it is also important how much impact it has. Maybe if you set up a coal plant in Bangladesh, it will impact 30% per square kilometer. But if it is in Bangladesh, it will impact 1,084 people per square kilometer. So we gave better ideas to the government, because our country is an untapped energy mine in terms of solar potential. So we want your collaboration, how our government can keep this development, but not in a way they are going, focusing on fossil fuel. It will destroy our waterways and people, but to come forward with renewable energy production and all these things. With this thing, I am ending up here and inviting Marc, Yaggi, our Executive Director. Thank you so much for listening to me and inviting me.
Well, thank you, Sharif, and good afternoon, everyone. Is everybody having a good day? All right, excellent. My name is Marc Yaggi. I'm Executive Director of Waterkeeper Alliance, and I just want to take a moment to just thank Karine from Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation for helping Sharif and myself and our team engage today. Thank you, Karine. Also want to thank all of the sponsors and organizers of this event, the lake level, river level, creek level, wetland level, and we can thank the bay level out there too, for their leadership and vision in putting on this event. I think it's really important for people to understand that water and climate change issues are like this. I find it really hard to talk about climate change and not talk about water, and I find it conversely really hard to talk about water and not talk about climate change. That was actually really abundantly clear this morning at 6 a.m. when my team from the East Coast was calling me to make a recommendation on what type of resources we should deploy as a rapid response to support our staff and our Waterkeepers and our campaign activities in the Carolinas with Hurricane Florence bearing down this morning. And both in terms of protecting their safety and also making sure that we can get water samples and aerial monitoring of coal ash ponds and the factory farm hog manure lagoons. So climate and water, really close together right there this morning at 6 a.m. bright and early. Sharif did a really nice job at explaining an overview of the climate change and water issues affecting his community. And Sharif has been we're really honored to have Sharif as a Waterkeeper. He's been on the front lines of climate change for many years, and he has been a leadership in the Waterkeeper movement for a long time, and so we're really grateful for that. He gave an overview of the issues affecting his community and waterway. I'm just going to draw that out a little bit globally and present a commitment that we had talked about with Karine. For a little bit of background, Waterkeeper Alliance is a global movement uniting more than 300 locally based clean water advocacy organizations and focusing citizen action on issues that affect our waterways, from pollution to climate change. We currently have 341 Waterkeeper organizations like Sharif. Also, I know I've seen in the room today folks from San Francisco Baykeeper, LA Waterkeeper, and Yuba River Waterkeeper. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone else. But so 341 of those Waterkeeper organizations in 44 countries on 6 continents. And together, they're patrolling and protecting more than 2.8 million square miles of watershed, protecting the waterways and communities of about approximately 1 billion people. And these are local leaders who are holding polluters accountable and engaging in mitigation, adaptation, and resilience measures to protect their communities and their waterways. And we've got Waterkeepers in China, India, Bangladesh, Togo, Kenya, Senegal, Chile, Peru, Bolivia, Colombia, Australia, and beyond. And so they are a diverse bunch of individuals, different languages, different religions, different cultures, different political and legal frameworks. But they're all very much bound by a really strong core belief that everyone has a right to clean water. And if someone comes up to me and says, well, what does San Francisco Baykeeper do? Or what does LA Waterkeeper do? Or what does the Buriganga Waterkeeper do in Bangladesh? I say, to me, they spend their days fighting for a world where everyone can go down to their local waterway, jump in and have a swim without fear of getting sick. And creating a world where everyone can get a glass of water and drink it without fear that they're poisoning themselves with toxic chemicals. Or going to their local bay, river, lake, creek, or stream, throwing in a line, catching a fish, and being able to bring it home to their family without fear that they're going to poison their family with mercury or PCBs. Sounds like a pretty good world, right? Is that okay? Right. I think most of the people in this room know that that's not the world we're living in, though, because we have a global climate and water crisis on our hands. And we have, climate change is altering the chemistry of our oceans, the character of our coastlines, the timing and intensity of rain and snow, and wreaking havoc all over the globe. And we have a water quantity and a water quality problem. So in many parts of the world, our water resources are shrinking. It's estimated that by 2025, 1.8 billion people will be living in areas of water scarcity. 2/3 of the global population will be living in areas that are water stressed. And then what we do have left, what available water resources we do have left, we're poisoning. We're discharging 2 million tons of industrial, agricultural, and waste and sewage waste into our waterways around the globe every single day. Right here in the United States, 40% of our waterways are not safe for swimming or fishing. But take that water quantity issue and that water quality issue, bring them together, and the real scary part is the public health impacts that come along with that. 1 out of 2 hospital beds, half the hospital beds on this planet are filled with someone with a waterborne illness. So maybe they got sick because they drank water that was poisoned by fossil fuels. Or maybe they got sick because they didn't have enough water to drink because they're living in an area of drought that's been exacerbated by climate change. Roughly 3.2 million children under the age of 5 are going to die this year because they don't have access to safe water or they have poor sanitation. And more people are going to die this year from water-related issues than from all forms of violence, including war. That's the downside, the bad news. The good news is that we believe that humanity has the ability to solve this crisis, that we can rise up and solve this crisis. And for us at Waterkeeper Alliance, we believe that having local, trained, effective local advocates like Sharifs and our other waterkeepers and other watershed advocates is a key part of rising up to the challenge of this global crisis. Because we know that change starts at the local level. Whether it is the work that Sharif's doing in Bangladesh, or maybe it's the work that our Columbia Riverkeeper is doing, where they're combining grassroots organizing with legal strategies to stop proposed fossil fuel infrastructure up in the Pacific Northwest. Or could be our Hoang River Waterkeeper in Vietnam using ecosystem-based adaptation to increase flood resiliency in coastal and urban areas. Or maybe our Miami Waterkeeper in Florida, who is, they are advocating for green infrastructure and natural defenses like coral reefs, mangroves. They're educating the public about sea level rise and taking legal action to stop sea level rise or to ensure proper sea level rise planning. And so because of our strong belief in local action and local leadership and our belief in the work that those groups are doing, we draw our commitment out of a recent 20-year business plan that we've put together called Project Osiris. It aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 6 about clean water and sanitation. And we are intending to grow, we're committing to spend the next 20 years growing the civil society sector of watershed advocates. To do this, we plan on scaling our organizations to have a trained, effective local leader like a Sharif on every single waterway, on every single habitable watershed on this planet. And we'll be starting the first 5 years focusing on 15 iconic and endangered waterways, including the Amazon, the Brahmaputra, the Danube, the Irrawaddy, the Salween, the Mekong, the Nile, and more. And these advocates are going to use citizen action, science, and the law to hold polluters accountable and protect their communities. They're going to engage in activities like mitigation, keeping fossil fuels in the ground, stopping proposed fossil fuel projects, retiring existing fossil fuel projects, and advocating that financing and subsidies are taken away from fossil fuel and diverted over to cleaner sources of energy like solar and wind. And these advocates will be engaging in mitigation and resilience and adaptation measures too, so they can ensure that their communities thrive far into the future. So we're pleased to be here today to make that commitment. I want to thank Sharif for coming all the way from Bangladesh to share his story with us. And thank you all again for having us here today.